So I'm John Evich with Top Shelf Cannabis. This is the store. I'll start out with a tour. Everything's changing constantly, trying to make it better as we learn and adapt to everything. But you come in, you start out, there's some local glass, especially like Whitney Harmon. He's one of the best local glass blowers there are. He shops right up the road. We're honored to have his product. We haven't had a lot of time to talk to everybody in the industry to get as much glass as we can in, but we're working on it. So local glass, local people are really important to us. And you'll walk in, you start out with edibles, which we're real lucky to have on the shelf, especially so early, and just your normal glass. And then you come down to our flower, which isn't the easiest thing to get a hold of right now, but we've got pre-rolls, we've got flower in stock. There's more edibles down below, everything from pita chips, flavored pita chips, to peanut brittle, to cookies and cream bars, which I just want to tear into right now, actually. So the same day we launched the edibles, we were lucky enough to launch the first concentrate, and it's pre-filled 250 to 500 milligram cartridges in the Riff pen. They're at rifflife.com. But once again, it came down to hard work. On May 2nd, I think it was, I started making the phone call, and when I spoke with Green Chief, with Stesha there, that's what gave me the contact with Riff, since they are manufacturing the oils. And they're just a real convenient small pin, your battery pack and your charger, and then this is a display obviously, but your refills come back there in the vault. This is our basic layout of the store, and it'll all be changing to adapt. We actually have cabinets and things coming out this way, that the product's right here, easier for our employees to get to, saving process. Originally it was going out back and grabbing it, keeping it away from the public eye so they don't see tons and tons of product, which you guys will see it pretty decent. And then doors, we come just right into here. Our vault with our security and everything is closed right now, but as you can see, we're getting ready to stock all the shelves. Got a decent amount of product right here, and Monica's counting cash, which we don't have a lot of, so don't rob us, please. And that's the basics of the store. Quite the story. I'm trying to remember it the best I can, but how I remember it is I was at the post office and I ran into an old friend, Tom Beckley, who was at the post office about to go in, and just jumped in his truck and said, "Hey, what's up? How you been?" Started catching up, and he was dropping off his application in the mail that day. And he told me that if this happens, I'm going to need some help. Would you be interested? I said, I don't really have the time for it, and it's not something I thought about getting into, but how could I say no in pioneering an industry like this? I honestly hope that he didn't get drawn, because I had too much going on and I didn't really have time. But next thing you know, time flew by and he got drawn, and I was on my tractor tilling up the ground, getting ready to plant some grass, the other kind of grass. And Tom comes barreling down the driveway, dust flying everywhere, and jumps out and gives me the big thumbs up. And I just kind of shake my head like, what did I get myself into? And it was from that point on where plans started getting made, and I thought, okay, we need to make a media presence, and we need to do it now. We need people to know the name Top Shelf Cannabis, and we need people in Bellingham and Whatcom County to know that we're going to be opening up, and we're going to do our best to open on day one. It was hard because we were chosen, or he was chosen, in the lotto. Told he was probably going to get a license because he was chosen. But to go and dump $100,000 or something into a business, into what was an empty warehouse basically, and having 30 days to do it, being the main investor in the store, I was a little hesitant without an actual license. Just being drawn in a lotto to be able to get a license, to just go throw $100,000 down or something and not know if you're going to get that license was a little sketchy to me. Basically every obstacle. This building was empty. It wasn't empty, it was full of our landlord, which is one of our best employees' dads, but it was full of a boat, old snowboard equipment, motorcycle helmets, just used as storage basically, and that's all it was. Everything was an obstacle. We had 30 days to get everything going. I think we spent about 4 days sitting in the mayor's office. Countless hours spent, or days spent down at the city trying to, not that we could rush anything, but it's a new industry, and Bellingham and the mayor are interested in new industries. They were a great help, but you still have to follow protocol. So there's a permit process. One of the biggest ones was the last day. We had to open on a temporary occupancy permit because this bathroom right here, if you'll notice, there's a pipe coming down from the ceiling, which is the sprinkler system. We had capped it, so the bathroom had a ceiling on it, which most people using the bathroom would want a ceiling on it. We had to tear that off because the sprinkler didn't go in there, and then we could get a temporary occupancy. And everything from that to our ceiling paint falling down, we had a paint rep, I won't mention the name, come in, and the representative for that paint company said they had something that would stick to a commercial installation. Well, I took off about, it's funny, I left my house at 4:20 a.m. to go do an interview with Bob Rivers, who's no longer on air anymore. He retired, which is great to get one of the last shows in. I come by here, look at the ceiling about 5 o'clock in the morning. It looked beautiful. The wall paint, the ceiling was a nice black. About 9 o'clock, the guys called me and said the sky is falling. 4.5-inch flakes of paint just falling from the sky all over our concrete floor at that time, all over everything. So they had to go up there with lifts. They had to use an air hose to get it off of there. They had to hand peel every piece, and we're still waiting to put a permanent thing, but we haven't had time because we opened. That's just the start of it. From the floor not being in stock, late delivery, to, I could just keep going on and on, to a little bit. There wasn't much drama in the store opening, but there was a little bit on painting of the walls. One person wanted to paint them, but they were going to be gone for 2.5 days. We didn't want to wait, so Tom and I just painted the walls, and we needed it done. This whole thing was just almost a miracle to get done in 30 days, but we did it. Our tourism has been fluctuating, and it's been a pretty interesting thing. The biggest was last week. We had a large quantity of Canadians coming through, probably 50% or more for a certain percentage of the day, same time each day. It took us till the third day to figure out what was going on. I had heard on the radio about the Mariners sweeping a baseball team. Well, the Blue Jays were playing, so they were all coming down for the Blue Jays game for, I think it was 3 days. I know it was at least 3 days in a row, but figured that one out. Not real quick, but real quick after I did that. And then on an average, I'd say we're 15% tourism, maybe, just guessing. We get a lot of people that are living in the area, but they still have out-of-state ID, or they just moved here. Probably in the first 3 days, we received one customer from each state or real close. Our security found it pretty interesting, so they actually made a list and they started crossing off driver's licenses. And I think it was about 3 days before we crossed every state off the list. So, and we welcome tourism being the closest store to BC. Pretty excited about that, and so are they.
What's the furthest away someone's come from that you're aware of?
Good one. I'm going to have to ask.
Overseas?
Yeah, we definitely had them from overseas. I'm going to have to ask on that one. Give me just a sec. Hey, Zach. What's the furthest away we've seen someone from? I mean, that's a hard... How do you, I mean...
Well, we've seen them from every single state. Are we talking about overseas-wise, too?
Yeah, I mean...
We got a guy from Australia come.
Okay, I can go with that.
All right. Something like some Perth, I think.
What's that?
Do some Perth.
Okay. First night of edibles was chaos, and thank you guys for coming. You guys were right here. A lot of the other media just didn't have time because we were given less than 24-hour notice that we were going to receive our edibles the next day. And then for security reasons, you don't want to tell someone when your delivery is. That way they might be waiting to take somebody with a bunch of cash, or sometimes there can be a check, depends on the banking. That night was a mess. First, everything changes so quickly. They ended up being late, which wasn't really their fault. Something had happened, quarantine. And she's 33 minutes from Mount Brutal and 33 minutes from Mount Brutal. Okay, thanks. Okay, bye. Let me ask her if you guys can come back, and then I'll get. We need to come visit now. We're gonna
Sasha, do you want to keep that paperwork or can we? Huh? Can we keep those or?
Yeah, you call me. I'll put my undone
So how about this? One of each edible on the shelf.
Okay, go ahead and start pulling that out. That's your lighted display case.
Lighted display case.
Yeah, lighted display case.
Let's get some fucking people moving here. Hey Annie, we've got the product right now. We're just about to have the last of the count.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So I think we're pretty good to go. Everything looks pretty awesome. Okay, thank you. Hey guys, when everybody comes in, we need to be as fast and efficient as possible. I don't want one of those people out there don't think I'm being a frickin' trick or anything, but we gotta be super fucking fast and super efficient. I don't want one of those people coming in at 12:01 and being upset. So I'm not just looking at you, you're the fucking man. But we gotta move smoothly and fast. Are you cool with
Sure, I'm fine with that.
Okay. Well, you can introduce yourself or do you want me to? Okay.
Hi.
Hey everybody, this is Steph with Green Chief. She is the first one to launch everything. Okay. One of each on the edible. One of each of everything.
And then the hybrid.
Be really careful talking to them. The party mix is very fragile.
So it's $194 fees.
Yeah.
You didn't, nobody told me.
Yeah, so it's like 99.
So exciting.
So the sweet lafayette you're adding on there. The first one. Is $214.
200 right there.
Exactly.
But it did work. It worked. It's going to tell the state there's a 10 limit, but we did because
So it's just a glitch.
Thank you so much for being our first consumer device.
Thank Once we received our edibles, the state changed the packaging, or the packaging requirements changed. So at that point, we were the only person to have edibles. And a week later, that was on Wednesday night, I think it was. It wasn't until last night, today, which is Monday, almost 2 full weeks later, that another store is going to launch the first edibles. So we in Bellingham have had the first edibles for almost 2 full weeks. I think there's going to be variables. There's so many variables in that I can't give an exact answer. But with the licensing right now, LCB's been blamed a lot for doing something that people don't agree with on a time frame. At the same time, I've seen the other side of it too. I've heard the stories of people like producers, processors, and retailers expecting to be licensed, but I've also heard that they've called for their inspection and not even have their security cameras up yet, not knowing. So there's so many variables in that. So if I'm just going to take I don't want to say an uneducated guess, if I'm going to just take a guess in that, I'm thinking we're a couple of years away before it does. I would hope that within the next year, there's enough. A lot's going to change when the outdoors. There's such a large outdoor crop coming soon, probably roughly November. That's going to put some changes on it. That'll probably be able to drop the prices down. And I don't think we're going to be competitive with the black market. That we have taxes to pay. We have hourly wages to employees. We have health insurance. I don't know that we're ever going to be able to compete with, say, $8 a gram. It is possible. I won't say that we won't, because it could happen. But I think we're a couple years away from being at that $8 to $10. Some people that are very educated in this industry and very knowledgeable say that's never going to happen, that it'll never get that cheap. I could see it getting down to, I'd like to see it come down to $10 to $15. I still think as for what it is, I don't want to call it a medication, but for the product that it is, it's pretty affordable. Even at, I mean, at $8 a gram, $10 a gram, that's very affordable. But how much time you get out of a bag this full of product for your average user for the amount that it costs is a lot of, I'll say, recreation. This is not an industry I thought I was going to be legally involved in for the rest of my life. The opportunity came up, and I couldn't pass on it. Just the pioneering aspect of it. But the biggest reward of it, I'd have to say, was, it's almost a tie, but one of the biggest rewards was just seeing it come into place, seeing all the hard effort, the no sleep, the sacrifices. Just, I don't know how my family and wife and friends tolerate me, because I disappeared. I was gone. There's no response. Seeing it be successful and seeing it work was a huge accomplishment. And then something I didn't even think about was the second end of it, were the smiles that we saw. I wondered how much negative. I had to call the whole family and ask them, the name's going to be involved, et cetera, et cetera. I thought we might see some negative aspects of it. I saw nothing but smile after smile after smile after smile. Once again, leaving this store, people were so happy, and I felt proud and honored to do what I did. There's some drama involved, as you can imagine, with the new industry, and I hate to make that drama grow, but I know how hard I worked from day one. I know that in 4 days I had 8 hours of sleep. The day prior to opening I had no sleep. I know from May 2nd it was pretty much non-stop work, effort, and sacrifice. What upsets me is some of the things that have happened because of that aren't realized. We've actually been somewhat, I'll use the term, down-talked and almost threatened, if not threatened, by other people thinking that we are taking all the product away from the market so that nobody else can get their doors open, which is the farthest from the truth. I'd like to think I'm a good businessman, and when I know we had the potential to open up a store, I got on the phone and I called, I went and met people, I built relationships. I have agreements with contractors, not contractors, producers and processors that I built for hard effort. There's been no plan from day one at all to stop others. If all the news media that everyone sees, I talk about the good of the industry and how we did a low price on day one to thank the people of Washington, there was no hoarding of product by myself or Top Shelf. It's a tough one to answer. If I give away all my secrets, I'll be out of business because there will be so much competition. But I'm for the good of this industry. I mean, I want 502 to be successful. I want to be successful with this store and everybody that works here. I want tons of product on the shelf so that our employees keep working. But easiest advice I could give to anybody would just be work hard. One of my relatives is probably the most reputable fisherman in all of Alaska in the king crab era. He holds a record of 6 million pounds in one season. Right before he died, I had called him talking to him about a business. And he said, John, it doesn't matter what you do. If it's a gas station, a convenience store, a farm, if you put everything you have into it, I know you'll be a success. That sums it up. Thanks, Lloyd. You guys ready to film a reality show yet?
Yeah.